Hey everybody, my name is Gerard Sukram from the Kennedy Academy, and I'm here to talk to you about how to use commas properly when joining clauses together. But Gerard, why is it important to know these rules? Well, Gerard, it's important when writing to use commas appropriately in order to appear more professional and accurate. Teachers respect students who use commas appropriately and will often take points off students who use them incorrectly. And employers may not notice when you use commas the right way, but they sure as heck are going to notice when you don't. I don't care about that stuff. Why else is knowing common rules important? Let me think. Well, by understanding the ways commas are used to construct different sentences, you'll improve your syntax. That's a fancy word for sentence formation, thereby improving the credibility of your writing. More credibility equals more blog followers. Sweet! I was wondering how to get more followers on my beekeeping blog, but I don't believe in Santa Claus, and my kitten's claws have been removed. How do I use clauses to improve my syntax? No, dude. I'm talking about a different kind of clause. A group of words that contain a subject and a predicate. Today we're only going to talk about two types of clauses, independent clauses and dependent clauses. An independent clause is a group of words including a subject and a verb that expresses a complete thought. An independent clause can be a complete sentence on its own. Here's the first example. I ran. Notice how there's a subject, I, and a verb, ran. Here's a more complex example. I took my girlfriend to the candy store. Notice how there's a subject, I, and a verb, took. Now, a dependent clause is a group of words including a subject and a verb that does not express a complete thought, so a dependent clause can't be a sentence on its own. So, what's the difference between an independent clause and a dependent clause that makes one a sentence and one not a sentence? Actually, the only difference between a dependent clause and an independent clause is a dependent clause has a dependent marker word on it. Dependent marker words are words that indicate time or place, as well as contradictions, contingencies, cause and effect, and pronouns. Here's a list to make it less confusing. Wait, so all we have to do to make a dependent clause into an independent clause is take away the marker word? Exactly. Take a look at this example. When I ran. When we take our independent clause and put a dependent marker word in front of it, it becomes a dependent clause. Don't put a period here because this isn't a sentence. Here's another example. Because I took my girlfriend to the candy store. This is also not a sentence. Notice that I could also say, when I took my girlfriend to the candy store, or if I took my girlfriend to the candy store. These would also be dependent clauses. Okay, so now I know what independent and dependent clauses are. Now what? Think about if you were writing a story and you only use simple sentences, which are just independent clauses. You might write a story like this. I was going to run to the grocery store. It was raining. I didn't want to get wet. I had forgotten my umbrella at home. My mom was coming home. I was leaving. She let me borrow her umbrella. So you can see that was pretty boring, but try something more like this. When I was going to run to the grocery store, it was raining. I didn't want to get wet, but I had forgotten my umbrella. As I was leaving, my mom was coming home and she let me borrow her umbrella. Wow, that was so much more smooth and interesting. How on earth did you do that? To do something like that, you have to look at the different types of sentences. A complex sentence is a sentence with one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. For example, when I was going to run to the grocery store, it was raining. You could also say, it was raining when I was going to run to the grocery store. So the formula here is dependent clause, comma, independent clause. Or independent clause, dependent clause with no comma. Don't use a comma between an independent clause and a dependent clause. But I always use commas between my independent clauses and dependent clauses. Well, that's probably why you're failing all of your English classes, and why your blog doesn't have any followers. Actually, I think it's because it's about beekeeping. So, what if I want to join two independent clauses together? Well, if you want to join two independent clauses, you have to create a compound sentence. A compound sentence is a sentence composed of at least two independent clauses. They are most commonly joined by one of the following words: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. These words are called coordinating conjunctions, and they can be used to connect two independent clauses. Here's an example compound sentence. I didn't want to get wet, but I had forgotten my umbrella. The formula here is independent clause, comma, coordinating conjunction, independent clause. But there's so many of them. How am I ever going to remember all of those coordinating conjunctions? Fortunately, they're spun together in the nifty acronym FANBOYS. Oh, I get it. Fanboys. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you learned some tips to improve your writing and get more blog followers. Be sure to check out the other videos from the Kennedy Academy. See you next time.